Welcome back to another exciting video, and what we're going to be talking about today is the circle of fifths. That is correct. We're going to be talking about the circle of fifths. Now, as you can see, I am sitting in my computer room, normally not where or how I do videos, but for this video, I figured it would be best just to do it on the computer. I am sitting here at Illustrator, and we're going to discuss the circle of fifths. This is one of those things that you must know. This is very important because what this is going to do is it's going to tell you about the keys. Because you have to understand what the keys are. You know, if you're playing in the key of C, how many sharps or flats? If you're playing in the key of G, how many sharps or flats? These are things that you must know. So what I'm doing is I'm finally getting started on my guitar series. Sorry about that. And on this guitar series, we're going to be discussing a lot of different things. We're going to be obviously how to play a guitar. There will be some piano stuff in there also. But there'll also be a tremendous amount of theory, because without the theory, you're just wasting time. You're arbitrarily playing stuff and you have no idea why you're playing it. So that instantly rushes you up against a very big wall. You have to understand what you're playing to understand where you need to go. You just can't play stuff all over the place for the sake of argument. And if you do, a lot of times that is called jazz. And so we're not going to be, we may get into some jazz exercises, but we're not going to be learning how to play jazz by just playing a bunch of random chords all over the place. We're actually going to make it make sense. Now, since I am doing this, a lot of these videos will go on YouTube, but some of these will also go onto my Patreon page. On the Patreon page, these will be things that require a little more explanation, maybe a little more advanced stuff. Something we got to dive deeper into. And you can jump on my Patreon page. For $6 a month, you'll be able to get all these extended lessons that I'm going to be doing. And compared to what it costs to have I don't even know what guitar lessons. When I used to teach, I used to charge $50 an hour. And that was several years ago. So Lord, who knows what it is now. But you can get it here online in the comfort of your own home for only $6 a month. That is correct. The videos will be posted up on the Patreon page. But like I said, a lot of these will also be on my YouTube channel. And we're going to go through a lot of material. And this is going to take some time. There's going to be a lot of lessons that come out of this. It's not going to be like 5 lessons and then we're done. There could be 50 for all I know, 60. Who knows how far we're going to go into this. And I guess it just depends on how well everything is received. If people want to keep learning, I will definitely keep teaching. But on my Patreon page, any information like this circle of fifths chart that we're getting ready to do, and the keys, all the signatures of the keys, that stuff will be on my Patreon page. And you can access that at any tier that you go into. You'll be able to have access to that information. So on that note, let's get started. Like I said, we're going to go over the circle of fifths. This is a must learn. This is critical information, and I figured this would be a very good place to start. When I'm starting this, we are going to go back to square one. I'm going to teach this as if you've never held a guitar before. And as the videos are going through, if you're like, dude, I'm way beyond this, then by all means, skip ahead or wait for the next video to come out or whatever have you. Just remember, sometimes it does help to go back because it may spark things that you have forgotten or something you just simply forgot how to do. So on that note, let's ramp this thing up and let's get going. So what you see here is I do have my circles made for the circle of fifths. And the circle of fifths, what it's going to do is it's going to tell us the keys of all the music. And like I said, this is a must learn. If you don't understand the key signatures, you can't play anything. You're doing nothing. So you have to understand the keys. And this is what this is going to do. This is going to help us understand the keys. So to get started, we're starting right here at the very top. And the first thing you're going to notice is we're starting in C major. Now in C major, as you can see right above it up here, there is no sharps and there is no flats. So C major on the piano would be all the white keys, no black keys involved at all. Now if we move to the right, all we have to do is we just have to count to the fifth interval of the key we're working out of. And in this case, it is C major. So if we count to the fifth interval, you got C, D, E, F, G. So obviously the next one is going to be G. And as you can see in the key of G, G has one sharp. And in this case, it'll be the F sharp. But to save room, I did not write all those onto this one diagram. I will be showing a chart at the end of this that shows all the key signatures. And moving from G, if we count up, and we just go up 5 more intervals from G, because now we're starting from G. We got G, A, B, C, D. Now we're in the key of D. So obviously, if you're counting up, the key of D is obviously going to have 2 sharps. And then again, we continue counting, and we move up from here. D, E, F, G, A. We count up 5. So our next one is going to be A major. And of course, A major, obviously, if this one has 1 sharp, this one has 2 sharps, A major is going to have 3 sharps. And this is how we keep going around the board. But let's move on from A. So we got A, B, C, D, E. So obviously, our fifth scale is going to be E major. And of course, E major is going to have 4 sharps. All right, now if we count from E, count up 5. E, F, G, A, B. So our next key is going to be the key of B major. But here's where things start to get a little tricky. As you can see, B major also has the same notes in it. If you're looking at the piano, the same black keys, the same sharps or flats, however you want to look at it, as C flat. And this is where it can get a little confusing if you're not really paying attention to what's going on. Once you wrap your brain around this, it's very easy to understand, but the problem is wrapping your brain around this. And I'll show you when we get into the next diagram, all the sharps and flats. So knowing that B major obviously has 5 sharps, if we keep counting around from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can see B major has 5 sharps. But the identical key of it, of C flat, and the reason I say it's identical, because if you look at a piano, it's all the same notes as far as introducing the black keys, has 7 flats in it. So now you're probably thinking, well, how can there be 7 flats? There's only 5 black keys on the piano, and that is correct. But if you're playing something in the key of C flat, think about that. Because if you're looking at a piano, B and C are side by side white keys with no black key in the middle. And usually to get to a flat, you move down a half step, which generally means you go from, we'll say B to B flat, which would be a black key. In this case, though, the C flat is actually B, because we have a G flat. Because since you already have a D flat in there, but if you notice in this case, like I said, B and C flat, it's not the same key, and this is where it gets a little hard to understand. But if you're playing a song in key in B major as opposed to C flat, you're playing all the same black keys on a piano. The key signatures, even though one's B, which contains sharps, one's C flat, which contains flats. But it has all the same notes in them, as opposed to one having, we'll say, an F sharp. In the key of C flat, it would have a G flat. Well, as you may or may not know, an F sharp can be F sharp or G flat. In order to make a note sharp, you move up 1/2 step. So if you went from F, you would go to the F sharp, which is the black key above it. But if you're at G, you would go to G flat, which is the black key below it. So you have F, F sharp, or G flat, depending on how the key signature is written out, and then G. So if you go up 1 semitone from F, you're either playing F sharp or G flat. If you go up 1 more semitone, you're playing G natural. So depending on how the key lays out, depends on how some of these are going to be structured, as opposed, is that actually sharp or flat? And this will make more sense as we keep going on. So if we move around and we're now going from B and we count from B, B, C, D, E, F. We counted at 5 is going to be F. But in this F, there happens to be an F sharp. So that actually makes this the key of F sharp. And as you notice, we have another one here to where F sharp is also that's got the same exact notes as G flat. And I know that sounds confusing. But like I said, if you're looking at a piano and you know how the black keys are lined down, you have C, C sharp or D flat, D, D sharp or E flat, E, F, F sharp or G flat, and that's how it works. And so when you're looking at the key of F sharp or the key of G flat, you're playing all the same notes. So that key can go either way. So if I was playing a song in F sharp, for the sake of argument, and I'm saying F sharp is my tonic, that's my one chord. That's what I'm starting the song on, and everything's going to resolve back to my one chord. Well, I could easily play the same song in G flat, make that my tonic, to where everything resolves back to the G flat. But all the notes in there are going to be the same. The only thing that's going to be different is the key of F sharp denotes them as sharps. The key of G flat denotes them as flats. But I'm using all the black keys now. I'm using every single black key. So they're either going to be sharps or flats depending on if I'm doing it in F sharp or G flat. And I will explain this more when we do a lesson when we're sitting at the piano. I will get into this more because the beautiful thing about teaching theory on a piano is extremely visual. It's very easy to understand theory. And when I teach theory, I always teach theory on a piano, always. So this will make more sense when we get into a different lesson coming up on how all this lays out. So moving on. Oh, before we move on. So if you look at F sharp or G flat, you notice now we have 6 sharps for F sharp and we have 6 flats for G flat. And like I said, when I get to the piano in a different lesson, this will make much more sense to you, I promise. Now, if we keep moving around and we go to our next one, if we count from F sharp, F, G, A, B, C, that is our 5th. And you see we have a C. Now, the C in this happens to be sharp, so it's the key of C sharp. But it's also the same as the key of D flat. And this is, like I said, you have to be able to wrap your head around what's going on here. And again, once I get to a piano, this will be so much easier to understand. And you'll be able to visually see it, and it'll click right there. That I promise. So if we keep going around, and if you keep seeing how this is laying out, we have 3 sharps, 4 sharps, 5 sharps, 6 sharps. So when we go to the D flat / C sharp, now we have 7 sharps, 5 flats, because now we're working through our flats. Now, pay attention here. If we count from C and we go up our 5, C, D, E, F, G, but we end up on A. C, D, E, F, G, A. That'll be the 6th. Interesting. Well, actually, from here, you would start counting from D flat. You'd go D, E, F, G, A, because now we're moving through the flats. But here's an easier way to understand that. When you're moving to the right, and this is how I normally do it. This is how I think about the circle of fifths. When I'm moving to the right, when I get here at the top and I'm moving to the right, I will always count to the 5th interval of whatever tonic I'm working on, tonic being the root. If I'm at C, I'm going to count to the 5th interval, which will be G. The 5th interval of G will be D. The 5th interval of D will be A, and so on and so on. But when I get here to the bottom, I start counting to the left on the circle. And to make it easy, and I know it's the circle of fifths, but the way you're supposed to count is you're supposed to start at the 5th below C and then count up to C to get back to this C major. Well, hell, what the hell is the fifth below C? Well, this is how we're going to cheat and figure this out. Starting at C major, we are going to count to the left, moving left. We're going to count to the fourth degree. So we're going to go C, D, E, F. And when you count to the fourth degree, there's your F. And yes, it can be confusing, but this is one of the little shortcuts that makes stuff like this easier. When you're counting to the right, count 5. When you get to the bottom, start back at the top and go left and count 4. So yes, we are counting to 4 in the circle of fifths. Exactly. So, and if you notice, F has one flat, and that is a B flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep moving to the left, and we're going to tie this thing together. So if we count starting from F being our tonic, our root, and we count 4, F, G, A, B. Now we have B flat. And guess what, B flat? If F has one flat, how many flats does B flat have? It has 2 flats. So we count from B, B, C, D, E. We count up 4. So our next one is going to be E flat. And how many flats does E flat have? It has 3. 3 flats. Now, if we count from E flat, E, F, G, A, we're back at our A flat here. And guess what? How many flats A flat has? It has 4 flats. Now, if we keep counting back from A flat, A, B, C, D, we're back to our D flat. And if we count back 4 from D flat, D, E, F, G, we're back here at the bottom. So the easy way to do this is when you're starting at major C up at the top, when you're counting right, stop here at the bottom. And you can do everything in increments of 5, the fifth interval of the new tonic. Go back to C and start counting to the fourth interval of the new tonic. And you will end up right back here at the bottom. All right, so moving on with this. Now, each one of these keys also has a relative minor. You've heard me talk about this if you watch my videos probably 1,000 times. Well, if you're looking at a piano again, if you look at all the white keys, the key of C has no sharps or flats, so it's just the white keys on a piano. So that way, if you look up here, it says 0 flats, 0 sharps. So if you go to C major and you count to the 6th interval, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that gives us A. So now we're in the key of A minor. All right, and here again, stay with me, because like I said, this can get confusing. So now we can start at A, and we can count to our 5th interval, just like we did for the majors, A, B, C, D, E, which means here at G with 1 sharp, we now have an E. But just in case you're not always looking at this circle of fifths, in case you just don't have your handy dandy wallet size circle of fifths toting around with you, you can always take the root, the tonic of the major, count up 6 intervals to get to the minor. If we started at A minor and then we went to E, if we counted 5 intervals, we have A, B, C, D, E. That gets to E. But if we take the tonic of our major scale, because every major scale has a relative minor, and we go start at our tonic, which in this case is G, and we count 6 intervals. So forget the circle of fifths for a minute. If we start at G and we count up 6 intervals, G, A, B, C, D, E, that gives us E, because it is the 6th degree of our major scale, is always the minor scale. So for this purpose, we can keep counting up 5 from A minor or the E minor, or we can count 6 from the major tonic. So for this case, let's just go ahead and count and complete out the circle of fifths. So we got E, E, F, G, A, B. We count to the 5th interval. So that's going to give us B minor. And if we go from B, B, C, D, E, F, that's going to give us F. But in the key of A that has 3 sharps, one of the sharps is F. So therefore, this minor key must be F sharp. And like I said, this will make much more sense when I get to the piano. I promise it's going to click and you're going to understand. So if we keep counting 5 around F, G, A, B, C, we end up at C. And of course, the key of E, which has 4 sharps, one of the sharps is C sharp. So therefore, the minor key of E is C sharp. We count up 5 from C. C, D, E, F, G, G sharp, A flat. Here we go again. Right here is where the keys start to intersect between sharps and flats. Now, if we count from if we count from G and we go up 5, G, A, B, C, D, we end up at D sharp, E flat. Now, here we go again. So if we go back to the top at A minor and we count back 4, because this time we're going to go left. We can keep doing 5 all the way around. But when we get down to the flats, when you count down to this D sharp, well, you can't keep counting 5 from that. Now you got to start counting from the E flat. So it's just easier to start counting from the left, from the top back to the bottom in increments of 4. So we have A, B, C, D. That gives us the key of D. Counting back 4 from D, D, E, F, G. That gives us the key of G. And in this case, G minor is the same as B flat, which has 2 flats, B flat and E flat. All right, if we count back from G, G, A, B, C. Now we're in the key of C. And if we go from C, C, D, E, F. Now we're in the key of F. Go back from F 4 more because we're still working left. F, G, A, B. B flat, A sharp. Because we have the D flat, C sharp. In each one of these, D flat and C sharp, even though they're played exactly the same on the piano, what differentiates them is their tonic, their root, their home chord. In the key of C sharp, the home chord is going to be C sharp. You can play it the same exact way as D flat, except if you're playing it in D flat, your home chord is going to be D flat. That's all that means. It's not hard to understand. And each one of these has a relative minor. As you can see, C sharp has a relative minor of A sharp. D flat has a relative minor of B flat. And that is the circle of fifths. And this is a critical must learn. These are things that you must know. And like I said, these will be posted up on my Patreon page. And this is one of those things that you just, if somebody say, hey, we're playing in the key of E, what do you play? If you don't learn theory, what do you play? You're just going to play an E major all the time? No, you have to understand what's going on. You just simply got to know. You have to know the theory. And you've seen those commercials they put up on YouTube. You don't need to know theory. Hell, you don't even need to have fingers. I can teach you how to play guitar. The best thing you can do when you play guitar is not think. Well, that's a lie. That's an absolute lie. Because if you're not thinking, how do you know what you're doing? Now, what he should have said in those commercials is to learn this so well you don't have to think about it. That would have been a more accurate statement. But in those commercials you see on YouTube, hell, you don't even need to learn theory. Not true. You're never going to be a musician if you don't learn theory. You will never be a musician without it. So when you go to school for music, half of what they teach you is theory. You learn your instrument. You have a secondary instrument. You have theory. That's what you do. And so theory is a critical part of this. All right, so moving on from here. Okay, remember I told you that, and yes, I'm sitting at my computer, so I'm going to look away a lot and work the mouse. Now, remember I told you what the sharps and flats were that we just learned in the circle of fifths. Well, you can see here what the sharps and flats are and what I was talking about. If you look at C major, you will notice there's no sharps, no flats. Those are all the white keys on a piano. And G major, of course, has one sharp, which is F sharp. Now, this does not list the minor keys. And the reason this does not list the minor keys is because if you understand how to get to your minor, since we're not looking at the circle of fifths, if we go to G major and we count to our 6th interval of G, and if you look at the chart over here, you got G, A, B, C, D, E. E is our sixth interval. So that means G major is also the same as E minor. And if you look here, E minor and G major both share the same key, which has the F sharp. One sharp in each. And for instance, if we go to D major, which has two sharps, and if you count up six, D, E, F, G, A, B. So B minor is the same exact thing as D major. It has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. D major has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. Well, why play anything in minor? Why not just play everything in major? Well, because when you're starting the song off on the minor chord of it, that changes the entire way the chord sounds. And you can play the same exact progression. The chords are going to be different, obviously, because you're starting. In the case of D major, your tonic is going to be your one chord, which is D major. In the case of B minor, your tonic is going to be your one chord, which is B minor. All this is telling you is that the sharps and the flats are exactly the same. So every major key has a relative minor key. And for instance, if we go down to G flat major, as you can see, it has six flats. If you go to the sixth degree, G, A, B, C, D, E. All right. So E minor, E flat minor, is the same thing as G flat major. And that's how it works for all the keys. And if you notice, we start at the top, we move through our sharp keys, C, G, one sharp, D, two sharps, A, three sharps, so on and so on. When we get to the G major, this is when we're getting down to that bottom point on the circle of fifths. And then that is when I start back at the C major. If you look at the bottom, the C major, and that's when I start counting increments of four moving to the left to get back to this G flat F sharp major, where they meet right in the middle and where things start to overlap. So that, in a nutshell, is the circle of fifths. These are things, like I said, you must learn. This is critical because you have to understand the key of the song. If somebody comes up to you and says, hey, we're playing a 1-4-5 in the key of C, what do? If you don't understand the theory, you will not know what to do. So if they're playing a 1-4-5 and you understand intervals of music, I've got a video that covers intervals, but we will be covering that more in this series. If you understand what 1-4-5 is, you can count over from the C. If you count to the 4, that's going to be F. And the 5 will be G. So you're playing C, F, G. That is your 1-4-5 progression. And you have to understand what all this stuff means in order to be a musician. Like I said, you can play guitar and never know any of this. You can sit there and play your cowboy chords. You may learn some bar chords. You may even get lucky and learn an inversion or two. But if you don't know why you're playing what you're playing, what's the point? It's like getting a bunch of chemicals, mixing them all together, just whatever, and calling yourself a chemist. Well, why are you mixing these two chemicals together? Well, I have no idea. Well, then you're not a chemist. Well, why are you playing all these chords together? Well, I have no idea. Well, then you're not a musician. This helps us get to musician. And that is the goal. Because when you become a musician, then we start becoming gods of our world. And that is the end result. That is what we're after right here. So like I said, we're going to wrap this one up right here. That concludes our lesson, episode number 1 on the circle of fifths and the scales. Very important that you know this stuff. And like I said, a lot of the stuff will be, or maybe most will be up on my YouTube channel. But you can also jump over to my Patreon to get more lessons that are going to be in this series also. Some of these will be on Patreon. Well, why are you doing that? Because a lot of this stuff is hard work, and it takes a bit of time to do this. So I'm going to throw them on my Patreon page. Hopefully you all subscribe to my Patreon page because that helps me keep all this going so I can do this stuff. So please subscribe to the channel and check out my Patreon page and check out my Instagram page and all that good stuff. But wrapping this up until we get to the next video, like the great Sammy Hagar says, if you miss the beat, you lose the rhythm and nothing falls into place. And that is especially true in music. What we're doing here is we're learning the beats so you can keep the rhythm so everything can fall into place. And that is the goal. Until the next video, rock on.